The Quake community is legendary for innovating the WASD control scheme, which was adopted by the gaming industry. The original layout should need no explanation. In Quake Champions, the crouch key is doubled between its original location on the C key as well as the control key where it is on most games today. Additionally, the ability key is assigned to the standard F key. One of the first community requested changes implemented into the game was moving rockets, lightning gun, and railgun to Q, E, and R respectively. With these changes, this makes the default Quake Champions button layout. But let's review some common changes that many players make from here. Paramount is the weapon next in previous on the mouse wheel. Generally, it's unadvised to use these functions because weapon binds will always be faster. But that's not to say you shouldn't use the mouse wheel. It's popular to move weapon binds for lightning gun and railgun to mouse wheel up and wheel down. This gives the player immediate access to these weapons without interrupting movement. Additionally, because these weapons make noise when drawn, having them bound to such a convenient location provides a distinct advantage. Seriously, you can ignore everything else in this video, but using discrete weapon binds on your mouse wheel is pretty essential for playing at your maximum potential. Moving on, most mice have at least a couple thumb buttons that players like binding weapons and abilities on, as well as don't forget that keys E and R are now available for you to bind weapons to for closer access. Looking back at the mouse wheel, you'll find some may bind jump here to turbo the input for bunny hopping in source games like Half-Life and Counter-Strike, but it's unnecessary in Quake as simply holding jump will buffer the input. Similar to this, you'll find players who like binding forward to the mouse wheel as well. This is done so the player can turbo the input for Unreal Tournament style dodging, which Clutch can make use of in Quake Champions. Another alternative Quake players like to employ is swapping jump to mouse 2. This is done to aid simultaneous inputs of jump and fire for rocket jumping. More unusual, but you'll find some players who will move the fire key off the mouse and onto the keyboard. This is done to remove accidental mouse movements when pressing fire. Considering crouch, control is already a great place for crouch sliding while using your pinky, but some players may choose to move this to another key like caps lock for comfort. Others may find the original location on C ideal, as it may be pressed with your thumb depending on your keyboard and hand position. With this same idea, some players elect to bind weapons to C, V, or Alt so they can use their thumb to select those weapons while not impacting their movement. Next, I'll mention that all of these options available for WASD are also available bumping everything over to ESDF, which places the player's hand on the home row and makes a few extra keys available to the pinky. A bit more extreme, a few players move everything over to IJKL, again opening up more keys for auxiliary functions and maximizing the player's mousing area. To conclude, let's review a config famously used by pro player Toxic. Unusually, this config places step forward and step backwards on mouse 1 and 2. However, consider that originally FPS games were controlled by using step forward and step backward on the arrow keys along with turn left and turn right. This keeps these functions on the same hand as that classic layout while extending the ability to turn in any direction. Additionally, many weapons and abilities may be accessed without interrupting movement, as well as pressing fire cannot lead to aiming errors. Although this config and a bit else we've reviewed here isn't essential to play the very best, I hope this leaves you with ideas on how you can improve your bindings as it's best for you, your style, and your equipment. Please leave me with your questions and feedback, especially if you use something not covered here. I'd love to hear about it. Hope to see you all in the arena, and praise Quake! In order to jump further in Quake, we essentially have to learn how to move faster in Quake. Faster than the base 310 ups or units per second that most champions travel at. Some travel a little faster at 320, some a little slower at 300, but all champions will be able to make use of the mechanics that I'm about to explain in order to increase their movement speed just a little bit faster so that they can then jump a little bit further. The first thing that we're going to take a look at here is turn acceleration. And what I'm doing is I'm just moving forward and then making about a 22-degree turn to the left and to the right. And what that does is it causes my speed to accelerate beyond the base 310 before ground friction kicks in and then lowers me back down. In addition, we also have strafe acceleration, which what I'm doing here is pushing forward while I strafe left or strafe right, and that again causes our speed to accelerate beyond 340 before that ground friction kicks in and brings us back down to 310. So if we combine both of these into an outward circle strafe, we can accelerate even faster, up above 380 ups. What I'm doing here is moving forward until I hit 310, and then strafe left while I make a quarter turn to the left. The same, of course, applies in the opposite direction. Just move forward, strafe right, and make a quarter turn to the right. You can accelerate even faster around a half turn, but it's exponentially more difficult to maintain that speed. You can only get up to about 390 ups, and most of the jumps that you're going to need to make just require that 380 ups. Moving forward to the mega health, let's take a look at a normal jump, which is just barely able to get us across this gap. And if we jump a little bit too soon, then we fall to our deaths and respawn back up here. But if we jump at the end of a circle strafe, we're able to clear this gap with very little risk of ever falling at all. Looking at this in slow motion, what I'm doing here is walking forward and then strafing left while I make a quarter turn to the left and then jumping at the end of that quarter turn. For a little bit extra distance, continue to hold your strafe key along with that 22-degree angle through the duration of your jump, and you will continue to accelerate as long as you stay airborne. Now once you have a handle on jumping across that training gap, I encourage you to load up Lockbox and apply your skills at jumping across the gap to the mega health. It uses everything that we've learned in this video so far, but it requires a little bit extra proficiency as the gap is just a little bit longer and requires a circle jump in order to jump across. It's marginally easier to clear this jump from the front than it is from the sides, but it's still possible. It just takes a little bit more finesse to continue to accelerate through the entire duration of the circle jump by turning into that 22-degree angle. Just make sure that you don't flub anything up, or else you'll be taking this long fall down to the rockets. Hope this brief video gives you a deeper understanding of the Quake movement engine and how you can exercise it to extend your jumps further and faster than you can otherwise. If you have any questions or feedback for me, I'm all ears. I'm here to learn with you. Praise Quake, and I'll see you all in the arena. Strafe jumping is an essential Quake skill that will allow you to move more than twice as fast as your default movement speed. So let's break this down and get you strafe jumping like a champion in no time. The first part of strafe jumping is, of course, strafing. And here is a demonstration of strafe acceleration, where I'm moving forward and pushing strafe left or strafe right. And you'll notice that my speed accelerates beyond that base speed until ground friction kicks in and brings me back down to that base speed. So what if we could remove that ground friction? And the answer to that is, no doubt, jumping. Here we see that if I move forward, push strafe, and then hold jump almost immediately afterward, that I will continue to move at that accelerated rate as long as I continue to jump. Technically, this is strafe jumping, I suppose, but I originally said more than twice as fast, so we're missing a key component here. That key component is turning into the strafe. I'm doing everything I did before, but I'm moving my mouse slowly in the direction of the strafe, and as soon as I turn about 22 degrees, I will begin to accelerate, and I'll continue to accelerate so long as I continue turning into that 22-degree angle. This works just as well to the right as it does to the left, and if you do this, congratulations! You know how to strafe jump, but there's a couple more techniques I want to review with you before I send you off to the races. First, let's look at the quick start. Here, I'm doing everything that I did before, except when I start, I quickly turn my mouse into that 22-degree angle before jumping, and then continue to slowly turn my mouse down that 22-degree angle through the duration of my strafe jump. This quick start is also known as a circle jump, and if you want a deeper explanation of it, I have a brief video that you can check out that's linked down below. Now, if you're a brand new player, I encourage you to practice this. Load up basic training and practice snapping into the turn and following the curve all the way from center to corner and back again. Before continuing, this should be like riding a bike to you. Because you're not always going to have this wide open space, and you're going to have to learn how to correct your direction in the middle of your strafe jump. So, when you feel like you're ready, come up on top of bridge and try to do just that. Replicate exactly what you just learned how to do, except this time, when you're about to run into a wall, swap to the opposing strafe key, snap your mouse 44 degrees over to the other side, and ride that curve for as long as you can until you have to course correct, and then switch to the other side and continue on until you run out of room. One final technique that I want to review with you is jump tapping, and while this isn't essential for the modern Quake games, it is mandatory for the classics, although even with the modern games, there is an acceleration penalty applied if you hold jump while airborne. So there is an advantage to continue to jump tap like the classic games, but if you don't want to wrap your mind around it right now, that's perfectly fine. Come back to this after you get a lot of practice under your belt, want that little extra speed, and or you want to enjoy those classic Quake games. For a final proficiency challenge here on Tempest Shrine, there's a great course from heavy armor to mega health that will challenge a lot of what you've learned here. There's a gap that you have to jump over that's not possible without the speed from a strafe jump. There's a couple doorways that you're going to have to course correct through. And overall, this is great practice because executing this in a real game is going to help you control both major health items in the map. And this can set up various situations where, say, you get the heavy and the mega in one run, you go around, you kill a couple people, maybe get fragged yourself. You can't make it to the heavy armor next time, but you can make it to the mega health, and you'll know that anybody else fighting for that mega health is not going to have the heavy armor, or if they do, you'll know exactly where they're coming from, and they'll be coming at you real fast. If you want a bit of a mastery challenge, here's the course in reverse. Makes a rocket jump in the middle of it, and this angle to the heavy armor is a little bit more tricky. Even if you're not that great at it, this is still excellent practice because you're going to learn a lot from your mistakes as your angles are a little bit different. If you're not that great at rocket jumping, you can take that jump pad up and just continue on from there. Of course, in a real match, you're not always going to be in the perfect spot anyways, so learning how to correct from your mistakes can prepare you for when you reach those unexpected situations when doing this with people shooting you and trying to kill you. With that, I think this is where I'll leave you. If you have any questions or feedback, I'm all ears. I'm here to learn with you. Praise Quake, and I'll see you in the arena. Chain jumping, sometimes called ledge jumping, ramp jumping, or double jumping, is a technique that will allow you to get a little bit extra bonus height if you're able to chain two jumps within about a half second of one another. The easiest way to do this is just to hold jump while walking forward into a ledge. Checking this out in slow motion, you see that my reticle gets about one brick higher on a chain jump off the ledge of the fallen pillar than a normal jump off the top of it. Now the game doesn't care about how you chain these two jumps together. Holding jump just before heading through a teleporter is another way that you'll see this executed in the game. And here's another side-by-side showing off that height difference. Again, the game doesn't care how you chain these two jumps together. Holding jump before a downward rocket jump or an ability like Dire Orb will also trigger the chain jump to occur. So let's get to the good stuff with a few practical examples here on Ruins of Sarnath. A popular execution is with these two ledges where a normal jump is unable to take us on top of that wall, but if we circle jump into those ledges, the chain jumps that follow will get us up there pretty easily. If you need an explanation on the circle jump, I have a video link down below for you to check out. Another fun one is over at Katala's Eye, where if you're at this ledge around her eye, you're unable to jump up to that second level. But if we approach the eye with a bit of speed and trigger the chain jump, we're able to launch ourselves up onto that second level. I also have a video linked below with an explanation on strafe jumping if you need it. Although this trick is a bit challenging because not only do you need a good amount of speed, but you also need the correct spacing in order to trigger that chain jump, which launches you up to that second floor. An important related technique is jumping upstairs, where holding space while ascending a staircase will cause you to skip up the staircase in a series of chain jumps. In contrast to this, if we hold crouch while holding jump up a staircase, we'll basically slide up the staircase in a more even cadence of crouch jumps. So if we crouch jump up a staircase and release crouch just before the very end, we can force our chain jump to happen at the very top of the staircase, which would cause ourselves to jump higher and further than we would if the chain jump came out lower in the staircase. The best application of this technique is probably right here on this staircase in between the heavy armor and the lightning gun, where if you just normally jump up this staircase, you'll probably run into this ledge. However, if we control our chain jump so that it happens at the end by using a crouch jump, we can then jump over that ledge and into the lightning gun room. You do have to build up a little bit of speed, and spacing is important, but I find starting a strafe jump from just behind the heavy armor is a good place to start in order to get this consistently. Bit of a warning on crouch step jumping though is if you hold crouch before your first step jump, sometimes you'll sort of stub your toe, for lack of a better term, and crawl up the steps instead. I'm not positive, but I think what's going on here is if you land deep enough on any specific step that it thinks that you're crouch jumping on flat ground, and that'll kill your momentum like it does normally and prevent that nice fast slide up the staircase. So there you have it, chain jumps. Fun and effective techniques that any champion can make use of, except Athena has her own amplified version of this. But applying everything that you've learned in this video with her, and you can figure out some pretty fun stuff to execute yourself. If you have questions or feedback, please let me know. Hope to see you all in the arena, and as always, praise Quake. Rocket jumping is perhaps Quake's most iconic technique. Look down, jump, and fire in the same moment propels the player to great heights. But let's look at a few variations for advanced gameplay. First up is the delayed rocket jump. Instead of jumping and firing at the same moment, jump first, then fire towards the top of the jump. This is used to jump further but not higher, mitigating the risk of becoming rail bait and getting to your destination slightly faster. Viewing these side by side demonstrates that safer and faster hang time. Also consider times where you don't need to press jump. Bouncing yourself with a raw rocket at your feet can be even safer and faster. Angled rocket jumps are more advanced, and a great place to practice them is at the dire orb gap. Look down into the side, then jump and fire at the same moment. Although more difficult to control, an expertly placed angled rocket jump can quickly change your trajectory and cover more distance than any other technique. Finally, rocket boosts are used to quickly accelerate by blasting a rocket between yourself and a wall. The trick is to fire the rocket before jumping, then holding jump immediately afterward. Continue to accelerate and course correct using your strafe jumping skills. But before I leave you, I want to review ledge grabbing. Typically performed after a jump pad to hold yourself closer to the ground, they may also be performed after a rocket jump. To ledge grab, either continue to hold jump as you ascend the wall, or you may also hold crouch. Both methods have slightly different behavior, and even champions like Nyx, Doom, and Athena have special behaviors when using jump. This isn't exclusive to rocket jumping either. Ledge grabs may also be performed after a nail climb, tri-bolt jump, or really anything that will cause you to ascend against a wall. That's it from me now. Hope you have a blast practicing these techniques. Hit me up with feedback and questions. Praise Quake, and I'll see you in the arena.
Alright, so when you're running, you obviously just go like 310 about there. Once you start mixing strafing in there, you see even on the ground, and you're curving it at an angle, you can go faster. This is how sometimes people can, like if you're backing up in a straight line and somebody is doing this, you see how they go a little faster? That's how they can catch up to you with Gauntlet. So when you're backing up, you need to do the same thing. Alright? So, strafe jumping works simply like this. You can do it like a noob and start out like just facing forward and just barely look left and right until you get used to like how far you need to look on each side to gain speed. Now, in this game there is auto hopping, which means you could hold jump and keep going, but the problem is with auto hopping is it slows down your air acceleration. So, like, let me show you how I would do this normally, and you'll see the speed, right? I'm at 607, almost 8 by the end of the bridge. Now, if I do it with auto hopping, like just holding jump, it's much harder to gain speed, okay? The only champions you really want to be auto hopping with a lot are Anarchy and Sorlag. Otherwise, everybody else, you want to be pressing jump every single time you hit the ground. Jump, 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 okay? And you're like barely switching directions just before you hit the ground. That's how you do that, okay? And the only other time you want to use auto hopping is if you know you've got enough speed. You don't need like full max speed, and you want to like, how should I explain this? Like, let's say you're going this way, you know you want to fight right here, just hold jump then. Don't worry about like doing that. Otherwise, auto-hopping is also good upstairs, because it continually takes you. Like here, I just want to like auto-hop and get my crosshair ready. Okay. Now, circle strafe jumping is like, I'll show you. Like earlier, you're doing this, you gain some speed. You want to start at like 45 to 90 degree angle to the direction that you want to go. And so I'm going to go to the right here, yeah? So I want to do forward and right. You see like I get like 360 at some point, even on the ground sometimes. I even got 380 there before I started. It allows you to go faster right off the get-go. So like, you can't really do this jump right here. Like, it's really hard to do without circle strafe jumping. It's like really hard. Like you can barely make that. But if you circle strafe, oops, sorry. You can pretty much make it every time, and you get like higher speeds. Sorry, of course I'm bongling it when I need to show it. Yeah, circle strafe. Keep hitting the damn wall. There we go. You get it done just like that. Circle strafing will allow you to accelerate faster off the get-go.
Protection spawned.
Anytime you want to go somewhere, you want to do like a little flick in the direction that you want to go. Otherwise, like if you just hold, like I want to go this way, I'm not going very fast. And sometimes it can make your movement a little too predictable. Whereas there, I got a good setup, and I'm gone. And I'm sorry I don't play with direction hints on when I play, like scrims and 1v1. It's like, this shit around the crosshair is too distracting for me. Like, I don't like it. The numbers, the speed stuff is far enough away, so I leave that so people can see. It doesn't bother me, but otherwise it distracts me from the crosshair. So that's why I only do this, like when showing how to move around. And that's pretty much that for strafe jumping. I'm not going to go through everything else today. I don't want to stay on too long.